Hey everybody, SoFi has been one of the best performing stocks on my radar since the student loan repayment pause is officially coming to an end on August 30th. Millions of federal student loan borrowers will begin having to pay back their student loans starting in October, and the stock has shot up in response. After all, student loan refinancing is one of the big cornerstones of SoFi's business. At least it was before the pandemic. Before we get started, please take a minute to subscribe to my channel if you don't already. And the best way you can support this work I do is by checking out the link you see on your screen for a message from my sponsor, The Motley Fool. So, just a couple of quick facts about SoFi's student loan business. For one thing, SoFi is not just a student loan refinancer. They originate private student loans for students who are actually in school. For example, if the federal student loans are not enough to cover your cost of attendance, borrowers can use SoFi's private student loans to bridge the gap. There is currently $5.2 billion dollars of student loans on SoFi's balance sheet. Unfortunately, they don't break that down, which how many were refinancing, how many were in school. But SoFi's refinancing loans have 5 to 20-year terms and $5,000 minimum loan amounts. Now, SoFi is not a student loan servicer. It contracts that out to a third party that also services a lot of federal student loans. Virtually all, like 99% of the student loans on SoFi's balance sheet are fixed rate. And it's not hard to see why investors might be excited about this. This is a high quality form of debt. In 2022, the charge off rate on SoFi's student loans, remember, they're not subject to the pause. Borrowers had to keep paying those. The charge off rate in 2022 was 0.31%, and that's compared to 1.86% for SoFi's personal loans, which is already considered to be a pretty high quality customer base. So that's kind of the student loan business in a nutshell. Over the past couple years, during the federal repayment pause, SoFi originated $4.3 billion dollars in student loans in 2021 and $2.25 billion dollars in 2022. Now, those figures include loans for students who are in school, which I mentioned SoFi doesn't break it out, but that likely makes up the bulk of it. The 2022 annual report, for example, SoFi specifically cited a dramatic decline in student loan refinancing as the reason why that was so low. And another big reason is probably the interest rate environment right now. The lowest student loan interest rate SoFi offers is 4.99% as I'm speaking. They range up to 9.99% depending on the borrower's credit. But over the past couple of years, you can see average interest rates were 4.44% in 2021 and 4.27% in 2022. So interest rates have gone up considerably since then. And the payment pause we know is ending. I mentioned it, the recent debt ceiling deal ends the repayment pause on August 30th. Interest starts accruing on federal student loans on September 1st, with payments coming due in October. And federal student loan debt makes up the bulk of American student loans. It is $1.62 trillion dollars in total in current federal student loan debt outstanding. Now, having said that, here's where it starts to get a little negative. A very small group of borrowers could benefit from refinancing their federal student loans into private loans like the ones SoFi offered. They would need three specific things. They need great credit. As I mentioned, SoFi's lowest interest rate for great credit borrowers with student loan refinancing is 4.99%. They would need to have high interest rates on their current federal loans. In a lot of years, the federal student loan interest rate was like 3.8% or thereabouts. It was lower than the best interest rate SoFi offers. Now, when I borrowed my student loans, it was in the mid 2000s. The interest rates I got were 6.8% in those years. So for borrowers like that, it could be worth checking out what rate SoFi would give you. But number three, if you refinance your federal student loans, you lose the benefits that come with it, specifically the ability to enroll in income-driven repayment plans that limit your payment based on your income, and you are not eligible for any type of student loan forgiveness if you refinance. Now, the president's plan to refinance or to forgive up to $20,000 of student loans per borrower that's currently in the Supreme Court is just one part of that. There's also the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that wipes the slate clean after 10 years of payments while in qualified employment. There's the Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program. There's the program that forgives any debt after 20 or 25 years on an income driven repayment plan. You lose all those if you refinance. So all three of those would need to apply. And I'm sure it does for a select group of borrowers, but not the majority. So I don't anticipate a big rush to refinance federal student loan debt just because the payment pause is ending. Now, that's especially true in the current interest rate environment. If the interest rate environment falls and we see private student lenders like SoFi start offering rates in the 2 and 3% range, then you might have a few more borrowers interested. But the good news is that with $1.62 trillion in federal student debt, SoFi doesn't need a big group to refinance in order for it to really be a needle mover. So even if 0.14%, so a little over 0.1% of borrowers refinance with SoFi, it would double their current student loan volume. So they don't need a lot of borrowers to refinance in order to make a big difference. I think it will have an impact, but I don't think it will be a game changer. It will be a nice catalyst for the next few years, and it could be even better depending on how interest rates do. But I don't see this being a massive influx of new business the way a lot of investors do. I think it's a good thing, but not a fantastic thing. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to click subscribe if you don't subscribe to my channel already. And as always, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. Be sure to visit www.fool.com/Frankel to receive the top 10 best stocks to buy now.